Value flagship has become a thing now. OnePlus used to dominate the segment, but now these flagship killers can be found almost everywhere. In this video, we are going to focus on two of the most recently launched, two of the hottest contenders for the best value flagship, the OnePlus 7 and the Asus 6Z. Both phones have their own set of pros and cons, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm only going to talk about the differences between both phones. For example, I will definitely talk about the cameras because there are various differences. But on the other hand, I may not talk about GPS because it's equally good on both phones. With all that being said, let me introduce myself. My name is Ashwin Sundar. This is Technology Jock. A lot of work went into the making of this video, guys. So kindly subscribe to the channel and more importantly, hit the bell icon. In case you decide to get one of these phones, check out these skins from our sponsor Capes India. They look really cool and offer a bit of protection by preventing scratches without adding any noticeable bulk or weight to the phone. There are a lot of designs and they're available for many other phones as well, including the OnePlus 7 Pro and K20 Pro. So do check them out, link in the description. You can use the coupon code TJOCK to get 10% discount on your purchase. Let's begin with the display. While both phones have similar sized displays with the same Full HD Plus resolution, the panel is different. The OnePlus 7 uses Optic AMOLED, while the Asus 6Z uses IPS LCD. Now, what's important is, it's not just any IPS LCD display, it's a really good one. Of course, it doesn't have that amazing contrast and super deep blacks, unlike the AMOLED display, but it covers 100% of the DCI-P3 color gamut, which means the color reproduction is great. Both phones have support for HDR, but of course when you place them side by side, you are going to notice some differences. The 6Z's display is slightly more punchy with more vivid colors. Even in terms of brightness, the 6Z is as good as the OnePlus 7. For outdoor usage, they were equally convenient to use. And of course, there's also the advantage of the true edge-to-edge viewing experience versus looking at the water drop notch every once in a while. Now, be it for movies or music, the OnePlus 7 stereo speaker system is noticeably better. Yes, the 6Z also has a stereo setup, but two things. I could hear some crackling sounds at full volume. It's quite loud, but the quality is not as good as the OnePlus 7. And number two, the earpiece volume levels are not ideally high. On the OnePlus 7, both the earpiece and the bottom speaker output equally high volume audio. The same crackling behavior can be found in the earpiece as well. On the 6Z, it becomes fine when you turn down the volume by 2 or 3 points, but in a noisy environment, you have to set it to full volume. Asus said they will provide an update soon, so hopefully it gets fixed. For now, I prefer the OnePlus 7 for phone calls. But when it comes to audio via the headphone jack, the 6Z is far better. They have provided these Zenfone Pro high-res earphones in the box. Now, the cheapest pair of high-res earphones I could find on Amazon is around 1,600 rupees and they're entry level. But these are just amazing. The earphones are tuned by one more. It's really surprising to see a value flagship come with such a good pair of earphones. The OnePlus 7 on the other hand has screwed up big time. No earphones in the box, which is not that bad. No headphone jack, which is ridiculous given how they used to make fun of Apple. And there is no headphone jack adapter in the box. It costs 400 on OnePlus website and is currently out of stock. Moving on, the Asus 6Z has notification LED, FM radio and a dedicated micro SD card slot, all of which are quite hard to see on similarly priced phones these days. They're not innovative, game-changing features, but they do provide a lot of value. The OnePlus 7 has the alert slider, which is super convenient, but the 6Z also offers something called the Smart Key. There are 3 different actions it can perform, and the best thing is they're customizable. These are my customizations. So barring the loudspeaker, earpiece quality, the 6Z is better at everything. Let's now move on to the build quality and design differences. Both phones have glass body with metal sides, yet they look quite different from each other. The OnePlus 7's back looks a lot cleaner with just the cameras and the branding. The 6Z has more wordings and of course the fingerprint scanner. Capacitive scanner versus in-display scanner. Well, the latter obviously looks cool and futuristic, but you have to tap the display or first press the power button and then use the scanner to unlock. You can use the raise to wake functionality, which works 9 out of 10 times, but that one time you have to either press the power button or tap the display. So functionally speaking, the 6Z's capacitive scanner is faster, although it's old technology. It really boils down to your taste and preference. Both phones have Gorilla Glass 6 for display protection, but the protection varies for the back panel. It's Gorilla Glass 5 on the OnePlus 7 versus Gorilla Glass 3 on the 6Z. Both phones look and feel premium, but like we already saw, Asus have gone for a true edge-to-edge solution, while OnePlus reserved it for the high-end OnePlus 7 Pro. Now, of course, this looks super cool, but in terms of durability, I have my doubts. It's very different from the pop-up mechanism of the OnePlus 7 Pro, K20 Pro, etc. Like when I was testing the cameras, a couple of times in the past few days, I had the phone close to something like a table. So while the camera was closing, it accidentally got hit. And several times while selecting a picture on WhatsApp, Telegram, etc., like those times when I didn't intend to click a selfie, the camera still did flip out. So personally, I feel the pop-up mechanism is safer in the long run at least. But I'm still kind of inclined towards this mechanism because you can use the same 48 megapixel rear camera as a front camera. And look at the difference. The 6Z selfies are far better, a lot more detail, better contrast, better dynamic range. And since it has a larger sensor and wider aperture, there is a natural background blur in every selfie. If you don't understand what I just said, please watch this video. And of course, the ultra-wide angle camera is also available for selfies. It's super handy, especially when you want to click group selfies. It's quite disappointing to see OnePlus going for a mere depth sensor for the secondary camera. These days, even Samsung's budget phones come with 2 actually useful cameras. This is just OnePlus trying to push people to get the OnePlus 7 Pro, which has 3 useful cameras. Anyway, for portrait mode, I prefer the OnePlus 7. The dynamic range is much better. You can see a lot of detail in the background. The Asus 6Z doesn't support HDR in portrait mode. Same goes to rear camera selfies. Here, the skin tones are better on the 6Z's portrait, but overall, considering the dynamic range and the superior edge detection, the OnePlus 7 is my choice for portrait mode. By the way, that's my best friend Kevin. I borrowed the OnePlus 7 from him for this video. Anyway, for regular pictures in good lighting conditions, both are really good. While both phones use the same 48 megapixel sensor, the lens and the software processing are different. So obviously the final results are also different. The OnePlus 7's images have a bit too much contrast and they have a bit of pink hue, while the 6Z produces better colors. Here the color of the high-rise building is accurately represented by the Asus 6Z. The 6Z also gets sharper output. But in terms of dynamic range and detail, the OnePlus 7 is better. And by the way, it was a bit of a struggle to click macro shots using the 6Z. The OnePlus 7 was easier to handle. In low light, in almost 80 to 90% of the situations, both phones perform equally well. Sometimes in some extreme conditions, you'll notice a difference when you zoom in. The images shot on the OnePlus 7 have slightly less noise thanks to optical image stabilization and a wider aperture. And when you compare night mode pictures, the OnePlus 7 wins quite easily. So for low light photography, the OnePlus 7 is better. Now both phones can shoot 4K videos at 60 frames per second. The quality is almost equally good on both phones, but the thing is, if you use the camera for a long time on the OnePlus 7, by long time I mean 20 to 25 minutes, it tends to skip frames while recording videos. For example, this clip has only 27 frames per second, while the 6Z captures all 30 frames every second. If you see closely, you can notice the stutters. This is similar to the issue we saw on the Redmi Note 7 Pro, but not that bad. The 6Z on the other hand doesn't break a sweat. And by the way, both phones offer excellent stabilization. In fact, the 6Z seems to be a tad better despite the lack of OIS. Now back to that flip camera. There are a few nifty tricks up its sleeve, like you can change angle while shooting videos without having to move, and then there is the motion tracking feature. You just need to tap on the subject and the flip camera makes sure it focuses on the subject by moving accordingly. And then it also helps capture panorama shots without any device movement. Now this is just a compressed version of camera comparison. If you want a full version, let me know in the comment section. I'll upload a dedicated video comparing everything in detail. Next up, software. Oxygen OS is probably the best Android skin available today. There is no denying it. But I used the 6Z for a few days and I felt it's close to Oxygen OS. It kind of follows the same formula, a near stock Android experience plus some necessary useful features. Like there's a screen recorder with a lot of options, a lot of gestures and shortcuts to launch apps without turning on the display, and more. On the flip side, I also found a couple of bugs, like at times I just couldn't take a screenshot. So overall, considering how Oxygen OS has evolved over the past few years, its stability, its feature set, I think the OnePlus 7 wins the software round. Performance in gaming, one area where there is absolutely no difference, or maybe very little difference. The reason is both phones support the same Snapdragon 855 chip, the base variant has 6GB RAM, gaming performance is amazing, free of lag, free of stutters. I was able to play Asphalt 9 at high graphics and the gameplay was really good. For day-to-day usage, for opening apps, etc., the OnePlus 7 is maybe slightly more snappy, but it's not really a big deal. If you're going to buy one of these phones, performance shouldn't be a factor. What can be a factor is the battery life. The 6Z has a 5000 mAh battery. That's much higher capacity than the OnePlus 7's 3700 mAh unit. I used these phones for a few days each and the figures did add up. With medium to heavy usage, the OnePlus 7 lasted one whole day with around 10% charge left. With similar usage patterns, the 6Z got me through one whole day with 40% charge left. Note that I had two SIM cards, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on all the time. The OnePlus 7 has support for dash charge, which is a lot faster than the 6Z's fast charging technology. I would usually give up a bit of battery life in exchange for faster charging, but in this case the difference in battery life is quite big, so 6Z it is. So finally we've come to the end. Now about which phone you should get, well, that depends entirely on your taste, your preferences, your priorities. So this is what the comparison looks like. If you want a better camera package, a great innovative design, amazing battery life, and those minor stuff like the notification LED, micro SD card slot, FM radio, etc., then go for the Asus 6Z. If you want better build quality, as in more peace of mind, a better main camera, especially under low light, a wonderful software experience, faster charging, then go for the OnePlus 7. My advice, don't look at the big stuff like display, performance, gaming, camera, etc. because they are almost equally good on both phones. The differences are just very minimal. Instead, look for some specific things you would want in a phone, like a notch-free display, micro SD card slot, ultra-wide-angle camera, loudspeaker. Consider these small stuff like whichever you feel is important. You get the idea, right? Just pause the video, have a look at this, and then make a decision. And like I said at the start, if I didn't talk about anything, it means it's equally good on both phones. Dual band Wi-Fi, carrier aggregation, haptic feedback, GPS, and so on. If you still feel I missed out on something, please post your question in the comment section. I'll get back to you. Please subscribe to Technology Jock and press the bell icon if you appreciate all my efforts. Thanks for watching. For the moment, this is Ashwin Sundar saying goodbye.